Yeah, so like I was saying, society will never ever like be quiet or even attempt to be nicer about things because a lot of these things that they're saying to you are not about you. It's about them. So like I mentioned, the stages of my life that I went through and the comments just they were like the exact same, but like almost nastier in a way. So when I look at my journey and from when I look back and I'm just like, okay, all right, I've been given this big um bag of just absolute shit and I have to carry this with me for the rest of my life. I genuinely, I promise you, I stood there and I sat there and I was like, okay, either I can sit here and carry this bag that is so heavy that my back almost breaks every day, carrying all of this with me. Either I can carry it to the end of time and just call out everybody who's handed me that shit, or I could actually put that bag down and understand that's not my burden to carry. And I can go through life without that burden and understanding that although all of these people did me wrong and all of these people have inflicted this trauma on me and all of these people have done me wrong, I choose to move on with my life and I choose to heal because I deserve healing. I deserve love. I started looking at myself like a little child because that's when it starts, right? When you're a child you experience a lot of trauma sometimes when you're neglected or when you're just like abused in whatever way or whatever you may go through or whenever you're in your teen years and you don't feel like nobody like anybody understands you and just it's like a whole thing. So I think it really comes down to the question of understanding that you're worth being helped and the first person who can help you is yourself and you help yourself by again reaching out to the right people for help and understanding that you deserve help. That's my take on it.
I agree with that because um looking back, like especially as a child in younger years, you you may not realize that you were traumatized or neglected or something, or you just think like, you know, it couldn't be me. Like I was loved. I had a supporting family. Like nothing has happened where I should be like this or where I'm at in my life where I should be feeling like this. But maybe that's not always the case. Trauma forms and hides in plain sight in different ways. And it's a journey to come to that conclusion and to ask for help and get that right support system, because in the beginning you may start to look for that support system but find it in a unhealthy or dark way, which just adds on to that trauma.
I think you said that beautifully, honestly. The line that you just said about trauma hides in plain sight, that was beautiful. And I think this conversation and this whole discussion was very productive in a sense that I think, at least for me, I was able to recognize a few things while having this discussion with you guys. So thank you so much. Hello, and
For your
welcome back
time.
to
I
our
think we're
podcast.
gonna save the
Today,
rest for
we're
the
going to
next
be
podcast.
discussing
Yes,
our survey
thank
results.
you
So,
for
we sent out a
engaging
survey to
in
the rest of our
this
class to
discussion
see
with us.
what
I hope
exactly
it
Thank you
their
so
made
coping
much for
mechanisms
listening.
were or
Oh,
how
sorry, I cut you
much
off.
awareness
go
there
ahead.
was
We're
about
done.
this
We're
stuff.
done.
So we're going to be discussing that.
Yes, so some of the questions that we had on this survey was about what they believe are unhealthy coping mechanisms and what are healthy coping mechanisms. A good general response of unhealthy coping mechanisms were like substance abuse and avoidance and distracting yourself. And some healthy coping mechanisms were listening to music and talking to friends and support systems. And a lot of them apparently go to the CSU Counseling Center, which I think is awesome.
I would also like to add that it didn't come as a surprise, but it was also very, um, in a sense, eye-opening to see how many coping mechanisms between like the students were like common. We came to like a conclusion that a lot of our coping mechanisms were very, very, very similar, if not the exact same. And that raised a concern. That raised a concern about how what is going on with the mental health of students, of these young adults who are just stepping into life. What exactly is going on there, and why are we reverting to these coping mechanisms at such young age? So that for me is a cause of concern. Like, what's the root here? So I think these surveys really, really made us examine what's going on around us and within us.
I agree, especially with everyone on this survey commenting that they have a good support system and that they can talk about things, but just seeing the differ from their first response to like how they cope and how it's unhealthy and how it's changed over the time is was surprising.
All of the research we collected for the survey was from 13 people. And the first question we asked was, do you suffer from any mental illness? And we found that 69.2% of those people do, and 15.4% don't, and 15.4% maybe. And we found also that the most common mental illness that these people said they have are depression and anxiety.
That for me, honestly, is as if I was somebody in a position of authority and I was looking at this data from students, I would really step back and consider the entire system actually. Like, what is it that we're promoting and why are we so silent on these issues? Yes, we're offering support through therapy and all of that, but what is the bigger issue here? Is it that we're just pushed out so quickly and we're just like basically we're just graduate high school and we're just like, all right, here you go, you're like an adult now, go figure out your life on your own. And I think that's a very, very big burden to bear. And just a lot of it, like when depression and anxiety comes into play, we forget what it's like to live with depression and anxiety. There are days you're not able to get out of bed, and there's days you're not even able to take care of yourself. And then there's days when you just have an anxiety attack. So how does that come into play when you're trying to succeed at your academic career and just like be present in your life? I personally think this is such an eye-opening response from especially even a class, I would say. Because when we looked at those responses, like some of them did respond by saying that they had substance abuse issues, and some of them did have coping mechanisms that were really not ideal. And it's not that these people are not aware of it, it's just that they're unable to find a way out of the pain and the struggle they're feeling. And it's concerning to me because we are basically all going through the same thing very silently, because then again there's this barrier of shame and guilt. So that's something we should really look into.
Yeah, in our survey, we did ask a question that says, do you use drugs or alcohol to cope? And we also found that 61.5% of people said no, and 38.5% of people say yes. And we found that the substances people named were mostly nicotine, weed, and alcohol, and that 69.2% of people usually don't drink during the week, but 23.1% only drink on the weekends, including Friday, and 7.7% drink 4 to 7 times. And then we also found that people who smoke or take substances, 53.8% don't. 15.4% only do on weekends, including Friday. 2 people, 15.4%, do 8 or more. And 15.4%, which is 2 people, is 10 or more.
Yeah. That's a lot. And yeah, I mean, these are just stats that we gathered, and I think this concludes our podcast. We just wanted to come on here and share the results that we found, and maybe um take this as an opportunity to really reflect on what these stats say about the generation that's upcoming, or generation that's there and that's going to be step up and become our future. So yeah, thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. It was a great project that we did together. I really appreciate my group members and I and Sidonia. Thank you so much.
Thank
Th-
you.
Thank you. I would also like to add how a lot of people are willing to learn about therapy and healthy coping mechanisms, such as being mindful and like meditating and going to support groups and therapy to better their selves and their lives. Thank everyone for listening and going on this journey in this project with us. I'm Anaya.
One more thing to add. Sorry.
No, please go ahead. This is good. This is great.
I think we should end the podcast by talking about some healthy coping mechanisms. For
Yeah,
example, healthy coping mechanisms I have are I like to read and I also like to drive around and listen to music.
that's awesome. For me, it would be baking, cooking, just putting on some music and just dancing, or just, just being present with myself. And also one thing that I found that really helps me, and this is the most simplest thing one can do. So it's like, if you guys want to do it with me, we can do it together. So you take a deep breath and you go, and then you take another breath on top of it. You don't exhale, like you're just like, it's called double breathing. And then you just exhale. And that is the quickest way for your nervous system to calm down. Did you guys know that?
I
That,
Yes,
didn't.
huh?
I actually found that out I think about 2 days ago and I tried it. It calms you down and like reduces your stress and I've been implementing it and I was just amazed by it because it's like you hear about deep breaths and like trying to calm yourself, but double breathing, that extra breath with the long exhale just helps like release all the tension.
Yeah, because it actually basically gets rid of the carbon dioxide in your body. So it's basically just oxygen you're taking up and you're just releasing all the carbon dioxide. So it naturally brings down your stress levels. And I'm really happy that you discovered this as well. It is a very helpful technique, I would say. It really helped me.
Um, some of the coping mechanisms that I use are um like looking at my emotions and what I can control in my life and about that situation and separating it from what I can't control because I feel like there is a lot that I and maybe others get worked up about, but it's not in our control. So if we focus on what we can control and try to balance that out, I feel as though it wouldn't be as scary or nerve-wracking as trying to control something that we have no ability to control.
Yeah, I think that's like a great insight. A lot of people forget that because we're just pushed into scenarios where we're just asked to take the entire control of a situation. And truthfully, we have no control over anything besides our reaction to our circumstances. Our reactions are the only thing that's in our control. But yeah, I would agree. So yeah.
Yes, this makes me think of an article we found while doing this research, and it basically states some of the coping mechanisms that Gen Z, millennials, and baby boomers use the most, the top five. It was surprising for me to see that Gen Z uses distraction as their number one coping mechanism. And as it is in a healthy coping mechanism, we do follow that up with 4 other very healthy coping mechanisms, such as positive cognitive reconstruction, which is changing the views of our of a stressful situation, like thinking something more positive and maybe trying double breathing. We look problem solving, which is, seeking how we can solve the problem, like what causes that stress, and trying to bring it down and level it out to what we can do to be less stressful, negotiating, and emotional regulation. And that is a method of dealing with the negative feelings around the circumstance, and be in like engaging mindfulness and meditation to express and let out those negative emotions.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you. I think that's a very great insight that you provided. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, so much for listening.
Thank you. Take care. I hope everybody heals and implements some of the insights that we've shared.
Yes, I hope this has made some of you think and want to try to start your healing journey or help others when they're ready to continue and guide them through their healing journey.
And always remember that you're not alone and there's always someone that you could talk to.
Yes. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Best of luck.